Welcome to the Sacred Reclamation Podcast. Here we will be exploring how we can reclaim the sacredness of birth, life, death, and all the happenings in between. My name is Sydney Sands, and my intention with this podcast is to reclaim the art of storytelling. This is a space where we will practice allowing the simple act of telling our stories and listening to the stories of others to be medicine for our bodies and spirits. I invite you to keep an open mind and an open heart as you listen to these stories. Grab a cup of tea, maybe a little snack, and settle in for story time. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to your favorite podcast, the Sacred Reclamation Podcast. I'm your host, Sydney Sands, and today on the show we have my dear friend, Regina Fields. So happy to have you here. Thanks for being on.
Of course.
So, Regina and I, oh my gosh. Oh, okay. This is how we met. You came to what when I held that full moon like yoga circle in the park, Crescent Lake Park. You
Yes.
came. That's how we first briefly met. And then we met again at another yoga event. And I thought this memory is so cute because I remember it was like held in a wine cellar or something. And it
Yes.
was freezing cold in there. And we sat next to each other and we like shared a blanket together, even though we barely knew each other. But I thought that's like such a cute memory to me.
I was freezing and I was like, okay, I feel like I can feel that this girl is nice. But at that time, I was like in a part of my healing journey where I was still like very afraid to like even like just like talk to people. And I was like, do I ask her to share this blanket? Because it's literally like 60 degrees. If not, look, I'm from Florida, but it was, I think it was colder than 60 degrees. And I didn't want to ask you. And then like I just looked over and you were like, I was like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah, they were like passing out blankets and I raised my hand for one and it was huge. And like I wouldn't just share a blanket with anyone, but I feel like that's so symbolic of our friendship because our friendship really has been like this sweet, cozy,
Cozy.
warming blanket. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know if our friendship really bloomed then. Like I can't really pinpoint the exact moment when we started like being friends. Maybe it was from coming to Yin. I used to come to your Monday
Yeah.
night yin class, and then we would stay and talk for like sometimes literally 2 hours after class. And yeah, that was where our romance really started.
Seriously, because like and we'll have to circle back to that whole full moon thing because it's a part of my journey. But yeah, I think when you started coming to the class, like before that, we were just like talking on Instagram and stuff occasionally. And then when you started coming to the class, and then we could really like sit down on a cozy couch, late at night in the dark room and after yoga. And we would literally just like talk about life, hearts open, and 2 hour conversations, which is really hard because typically I have the mom guilt and I'm always like rushing out to leave somewhere to get back home just to get upset at like the mess or the dishes or whatever. But I would never really be rushing the time with you. And that's how I knew it was like sacred moments.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely cherish those forever.
Me too.
That brings me just like so much joy to reflect on.
I know. You did that. You were coming to that class for like over a year.
That class was like my jam. That was like what kept me rooted, when life would be so crazy. Going to Monday night yin was just like such a gift. Your Monday night yin, not just any yin class. And I always have to be like so specific about that. And I would totally be like blasting it out to everyone, but I know you have retired that class for now.
I did. I tried so hard. I'm pregnant right now. I'm like 7.5 months pregnant. And that class was like my baby. And I love that class so much. I taught it from 2021 to 2025. So that's a good amount of time on one class. And I grew as a teacher because of that class. I learned to find my voice because of that class. I learned to trust my instincts, my intuition, and my gut because of that class. And I did not want to give it up, but I knew it was time to give it up because I didn't like going anymore. And
Mm.
that's a huge sign for like one of your favorite classes. And then just my body, just being pregnant and tired. And I would have a class before it. So I was like really hungry and just like I couldn't even show people like all the positions. So I felt like I couldn't demo the right way. And I just feel like I wasn't serving the students. And then it was time. So I retired that class, but I'm so glad you came, I think a couple months, maybe like 6 weeks or 2 months before I gave the class up. So I'm glad we got like one more session, couch session in
Yeah.
before that class went adios.
Yeah. And that is such a beautiful like that you followed your heart and you said that that class taught you how to follow your heart and trust your intuition, and so it just seems like a beautiful way to end it by doing exactly that and just knowing that even though this is something I've loved for so long and loved so much, and also other people love it so much, there's sometimes other people's expectation of us can keep us holding on to things that aren't working anymore for longer than we should. And so I love that, yeah, sometimes we have to just let go and it's
Yes,
okay.
yes, yes, yes. So that is where our friendship blossomed. That's where I think we had so many deep conversations, and I just like fell in love with you as a person, and it just felt like very aligned with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. All right. Well, before we start going, I would love to start with a little meditation.
Okay.
And this one's going to be a little bit different. Yeah, we're going to do a little bit of like time traveling. So it's going to be a little bit more visual, but I'm excited for what's going to come through. It came through on my walk this morning and I'm like, all right, let's do it.
I'm here for it. Yes, please hold space for me.
All right. So if you're comfortable, and for anyone listening, if you're comfortable and you'd like to drop in with Regina and I, go ahead and maybe just land with a breath. Breath in through the nose, out through the nose or the mouth. And I'll invite you to close down your eyes or lower your gaze and take a moment to notice where you're at now. Like I just said, we're gonna go on a brief little time travel journey. Inhaling through the nose, exhale, long exhale, let all your breath out. And as I take you on this journey, I invite you to allow your breath to keep you rooted. Let that be your anchor. So I can't breathe for you. I can guide you, but you bring your breath. One more deep inhale, filling up your belly. And let your exhale be longer. Blow out a little bit more of that stagnant air. Beautiful. Now keep your breath at your own pace. And I'm going to invite you to first tap into your heart space, Tapping into this energy of gratitude and joy. Maybe bringing your hand to your heart if that helps you access this energy. And with your next inhale and exhale, we're going to travel back in time. Now you choose how far back you want to go. And you're just going to land on a moment where you felt joy. And I want you to visualize that moment, looking back almost like it was a video. And you're really standing in the role of observer here. And while you're watching yourself, experiencing that joy or that feeling of gratitude, gratefulness, maybe awe, invite that feeling into your body now. And just breathe with it for a moment. Opening up your heart with each inhale, grounding into gratitude with each exhale. When you're ready, I'm going to bring you back to this present moment. Your next inhale, come back to now, but hold on to that sensation of open heartedness, gratitude, joy, and feel that now in this moment. And to come back, maybe it would be supportive for you to feel your feet planted on the ground, feel your body up against the chair that you're sitting in, or even feeling that hand on your heart or somewhere on your body. Find a sensation that brings you back to now. I'm having this feeling of gratitude wash over me just for the little sensation of how the floor beneath my feet feels on the balls of my feet. Feels very grounding for me right now. So find that for you and breathe into it. And then here we go. We're giving back into our little time travel machine. Hold on to that joy, that gratitude, that open heart as you move into the future. Again, it is your choice how far into the future you want to go. Maybe you just jump minutes, maybe you jump a few decades, wherever you want to go. Land in a moment where future you is experiencing joy and gratitude. Feel that feeling in your body. Look around at future you. What do you look like? Where are you? Who is around you? What are you wearing? Are you inside or outside? What are you doing? Let it be simple, even if it feels silly. Tune into that imagination we all used to love to play with as kids and just let yourself dream. Keeping with your breath, reminding yourself to keep an open heart here. And we'll spend a few more moments in this joyful, grateful heart space that future you is experiencing. And I'll invite you in our last few moments here to dream a little bigger. There's no limitations here. And I'll ask you again, where are you? What do you look like? What are you doing? We know you're feeling joy and gratitude, but what else are you feeling? Who are the people that are surrounding you? Dream big and know you're worthy of it. Mm. All right, now it's time to come back. Maybe blow your future self a kiss, give yourself a hug. See you later. I love you. And with your next inhale and exhale, bring a little energy to it. Coming back to the future moment, another energetic inhale. One more, feel your feet on the ground, your body in your chair. Oh, maybe wiggling around your body a little bit, wiggling your fingers, crinkling up your nose, your face. When you're ready, opening up your eyes, taking a look around your space, moving your eyes and your head and your neck and reorienting to being in the present moment, here and now. Mm. All right.
Chef's kiss to you.
Mm.
You took me there, honey.
Oh, good. I love that. That was fun.
That was beyond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hmm.
All right. So now I'd love for both of us to set an intention for this conversation. If you
Okay.
if you have one, go ahead. I'm gonna sit with mine for a second.
Okay. Um, yes, I've been watching a couple of your other episodes and I was like, what do I want my attention to be? What do I want my intention to be? And I couldn't really land on anything, but the one thing I did land on, I guess, is going to be my intention, which is just to be authentic and just to allow whatever wants to come out. And so that is my intention.
Thank you. I love that.
Hmm.
So mine is, I guess it is an intention, but it's also an affirmation. And I feel like you encouraged affirmations for me, and so did my friend Zan that was on the podcast a few weeks ago. And one that has really been like really resonating, really singing to me is my life is meaningful. And so I'm offering that to myself, I'm offering that to you, and I'm offering that to anyone listening, and just like letting that be true. My life is meaningful and I have purpose. I matter, you matter, we matter. And we know that because we're here, we're alive. Yeah, so that's my intention. That's the medicine that I'm needing today. And so maybe somebody else needs that too.
I love it.
Mm. All right, so I'll hand it over to you to go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us who you are, where you are, yeah, where you're from, who you're from, whatever you want to share.
Okay. Um, my name is Regina Fields. I am I call myself a wellness creator at this point. I used to just say I'm a yoga teacher, but um, I do more than yoga. I do, journal club. I create, guides and things to sell on Etsy. And so I come up with dope events. And so I call myself just a wellness creator now. Um, let's see, where am I? I am in St. Petersburg, Florida, which is where I'm from. I've lived here most of my life. I only left for a little bit for college, and came right back and have been here ever since. Was planning to move to Atlanta at some point, because I've kind of always craved what a big city life would be like, and met my husband. So that never happened. Those plans never went through. And he's from New York, so to him, St. Petersburg, Florida is like the perfect place. Like the weather, it's a peninsula with water all around. And so he's like, we're never leaving here. Um, so this is where I am. This is where I'm from. My whole family's from here. And yeah, what else do I need to say? Do I need to go deeper or what?
No, that's great. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna go deep here in a few moments.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yeah, so I mean, we can just dive in right now. My next question is, what do we need to know about you and your life this far? What stories do you want to tell that kind of paint a picture for who you are before we get a little deeper into your reclamation story?
Um, it's so interesting because I've really been reflecting on this for like a week. And there are certain points in my life that I can pinpoint, that I feel like have kind of led me to this. And one thing about me growing up, I always felt loved. That's for sure. I always felt loved. I come from like a really big family and a really loving family. And I was like the baby of the entire family, like the youngest, son's youngest child. So I was spoiled. My grandma used to call me Silver Spoon. And so I was always loved and felt loved around my family. But outside of my family, I just didn't really feel that. I always felt shy around other people. I felt like I didn't belong around other people, other kids. I felt weird. I felt overly sensitive. I thought something was wrong with me. Um, and so basically saying all of this, that I was just a really sensitive child who liked things that other people didn't like. Well, I feel like I've always kind of had a passion for going within, and right, and that's not something that maybe other kids when I was growing up were into. Like they didn't want to just like sit down and talk. Like they wanted to run and play, or they wanted to talk about something on TV or things like that. And I've always kind of loved just sitting on the floor and talking to people. getting to have deep conversations, meaningful conversations, and just learning more about life and the people around me. And so as I got older, I, realized that, okay, you have to pick a career now. What do you want to do when you go to college? What are you going to do for the rest of your life? And I chose psychology as my major. I wanted to be a therapist, but I really didn't want to be a therapist, but I wanted to be a therapist because I knew like you talk to people. So I chose that path, and it just didn't pan out that way. But I still always loved, even through college, sitting on the floor, talking with my friends, laying in bed all night, just like having sleepovers and just literally talking, having fun, holding space for people, reminding them that they're beautiful and amazing, and crying and feeling okay to cry and feeling all the feelings and being okay with it. So I ended up just, doing whatever I could do, right? Taking any job really. Ended up in project management somehow, some way, and absolutely hated it. The paycheck was decent, but I couldn't stand it. And I feel like I always knew I wanted to be a yoga teacher from the very first yoga class that I took. I just didn't know that it was possible. And I say that because when I started doing yoga and I was going to classes, everybody looked one way. Um, and I just felt different, and I felt like there was no way that I could do that. So I just never thought it was like a possibility. And eventually my life kind of took this crash. And from that crash is where you kind of like pick yourself up from the bottom when you're on the floor, and you just have to like build yourself back up. And yoga was like one of the biggest things that helped me climb out of that hole. And I fell in love with yoga in a much deeper way than I thought possible, because I had always liked it. But when it saved me from going deeper into depression, my respect for it kind of changed, my love for it, and I saw that it was like truly this powerful practice. And so I just knew that I couldn't keep living my life the way I was living it. It just felt like, last year you could have died. Is this, you want to keep waking up every day hating your life? And that kind of just kept playing through my head for like maybe over a year. Like, do you want to just like, you never know when it's going to happen. Nothing's guaranteed. Like, do you want to keep waking up hating your life, hating your job, hating your life? And I saw a poster for yoga teacher training, and I was going through another what is it, existential crisis.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
existential
trying to say?
crisis. Yeah.
Yes. And it was like the right timing. I didn't care how much it cost. I didn't care who was doing it. I was like, I'm going to do this because I need this in my life right now. I just knew it. And I did it. And it changed my life. I did the training, and I was a yoga teacher. I happened to be pregnant. I was pregnant. And so the same time that I finished the yoga teacher training, I had a baby. So that was like a big shift, right? Because like I had all of these like big dreams, and then I had a baby, and that is like a whole life change on its own. And so it took a while, right, to adjust to having a baby and working the full-time job and being a wife still and learning to be a mom and like, who am I as a person? But I always loved yoga. And I remember even when he was young, like practicing with him, practicing around him. And it was your class, Sydney. It was your full moon class. Somebody posted it on Instagram, and I was like, I'm coming to this class. It was like, I think a Friday night or something. Like, I didn't have anything to do. I knew that my husband didn't have any conflicts. I was like, I think it was donation based. I was like, I'm doing this. And I decided to come. And I came, which was so unlike me to like just like randomly do something last minute by myself, but I did it. And it was like such an amazing experience. I just remember being in this circle and looking up through the trees and seeing the full moon. You know, I had never done anything like that before that point. I had never sat in a circle full of strangers and like looked at the moon and honored the moon and like journaled. And I absolutely loved it. And it kind of sparked something inside of me. And it was like, this is what you're supposed to do. This is it. Like, you have to do it and you have to put your all into it. And like, you just got to find a way. And I remember I, I still have that journal and I meant to pull it out so I could read it before this, but I didn't. But I just remember journaling and I was like, this moment is going to change my life. And it did. It did. And because of that, I had like this motivation within me to have this career even more. And I just like kept teaching, being more bold, uh, telling people I was a yoga teacher, which is a whole nother thing, right? You can take a training and then you won't even tell people you're yoga teacher training or you're a yoga teacher, and until it comes up in conversation, you're like, oh yeah, I did yoga teacher training. But no, I started telling people I'm a yoga teacher. And I just started teaching more. And through that, I was able to uh, leave my job because I was teaching so much and it wasn't the same. It was not the same. However, um, I made it work. We made it work. And I've been teaching ever since. So that probably, I think I've been teaching full time since 2021. I've been teaching since 2020,
Wow.
but teaching full time since 2021. Lots of ups, lots of downs, lots of setbacks. In fact, there have been multiple times where I have applied for full time jobs, and every time I would do that, and every time I would convince myself that this just wasn't for me and I needed to do something different. Every time I applied for those jobs, I never ever heard back, not even a like, no, thank you. And then something, God would send something to me, like a new client or a new class or a new location or something. I would get something to let me know, keep going. And so here I am, keeping going. You know, I'm chugging along. And even now, like being pregnant, I had to cut my classes and it's scary, but I live for this. So I just have to keep trusting that this is what I'm supposed to do. And so I'm doing it.
Mm. I love that. That's what I'm always encouraging people to do is like get out there and do it. Live your life. Live a life that you love, which is so cliche, you know, like live the life you love, but it's so true. It's like you said earlier, what is the point of it's so easy to get caught up in that trap of going to school. And then I didn't know that you went to school for psychology. I did the same. Well, I started as a different major and then I was like, how can I get out of here the fastest? And I switched to psychology.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I I did want to be a therapist. Like that is 100%. However, I did not have it in me to go to grad school and to like do what it actually takes to be a therapist. So I got the undergraduate degree in psychology, but you have to go to graduate school and I just didn't have it in me. It was always something like pulling me back. And I don't know if that's going to change in the future, but at least up until now, it's just always been something pulling me back. Like, no. And I just took whatever job because that's what you're supposed to do. You know, you have to get a job because you got the student loans to pay once you get out. And then it's like you got to pay bills. And so I was just doing whatever. And eventually I just like landed in management, even though I was doing project management, but they wouldn't pay me project management money because I didn't have a certification for project management and because they didn't have to, because these companies will literally do whatever they want to do. And so they had me doing project management work, and I was technically called a project coordinator. It was like insane. I hated my life. I used to cry all the time. But when you have a near death experience, it kind of shakes your ass up to the core. And it was like, no matter what, I knew that I couldn't do this shit or that shit for the rest of my life. I just couldn't.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what was it that shook you out of that? And you mentioned just now the near death experience. Do you want to say any more on that or no?
Yes, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at like 27, 28, which was like, that made no sense to me. No sense whatsoever, because I have no family history of it. I I always like hated my chest. Like it was, they're never like big or whatever. I'm like, how in the world are these little things? Like what? But yeah, no family history. Like where does that come from? And to be so young, that shit shook me to my core. And it was such a long process. And the only reason why it was discovered was because the doctor that I had was actually a good doctor. And after the standard appointment, she sat down because she enjoyed talking to me so much. She sat down and started talking to me about life. And just from those extra 2 minutes after that conversation was done, she asked me if there was anything different about my body. She said, anything, tell me anything. Is there anything abnormal, anything different? And I was like, oh yeah, I have been having like some nipple discharge. And I was like, but it's not a big deal. It's only on this side and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, let me see. And so she literally did like a breast exam and she was like, okay. She was like, this is something to take serious. She was like, you also have an inverted nipple. And so she sent me to like the first like testing. And then the results were inconclusive. And then sent me to like another testing. And then, I had to do all this imaging, all this testing. And then I had to do like invasive testing where they like literally drill into you, pull your skin out. And then I ended up having to still have surgery because everything kept coming back inconclusive. And then they found out that they call it DCIS. That's like the term for it because it's technically stage 0 cancer because it hasn't spread outside of like the breast cells or whatever. But I realized in that moment that if that doctor didn't sit down with me, I wasn't checking. I wasn't doing self checks. I wasn't doing anything like that. I was 27, 28 years old. I realized that, I literally could have died. And that I was pretty strong throughout the process. But then I think after I had the surgery, I had a mastectomy, I woke up and I felt different. I felt like a different person. And just all of that stuff came. Like, if this doctor didn't take those 2 minutes, who knows what happened? And so that's kind of why I say near death experience, because like that was literally like, oh, if she didn't do that, I would, who knows? Who knows? Because you're just not checking for it. You're not checking for breast cancer if you have no family history and if you're in your 20s. You're just not. So yeah, it shook me to my core. It changed my life. And it was the reason why I fell into a depression. And then it was I felt guilty because, well, why did I deserve to live? Because everything you would search for breast cancer, it'd be like, oh, this mother of five died from breast cancer. And it was like, well, why did I deserve to live? And
Mm.
this lady passed away. So it was like so many emotions. And I just got so depressed. I got so dark and so deep. But yoga and faith are literally the two things that helped me come out. And so it changed my life forever. And that's why I teach the way I teach. That's why I believe I was like meant to do this, because it saved me. And I move from a place of so much love, respect, and admiration for the practice that I live it. And I just want to help other people live it.
Thank you. I mean, I feel a little emotional right now. I knew that we've talked a little bit. I knew that you were diagnosed with breast cancer at one point, but I never have really heard the whole story.
Mm.
And it just kind of, yeah, it moves, it's moving for me to hear that story and to hear the fact that, yeah, like you said, if you wouldn't have sat down for a couple minutes after and she wouldn't have asked you about your life and like, and it kind of brings me back to you, what you're describing as a kid is like you love to sit down and talk with people. So it's like if one of you were not available for that, how drastically different things could have been for you. And oh, that's just like really, it's hard to wrap your mind around things when like something in just like a split second like that. Because not only was it just in 2 minutes that she discovered that, but it was also like I would imagine that that changed your life so much. Not only that now you were being diagnosed with cancer, but also like yeah, it's like that is the near death experience, the cancer, but then it's like that depression that comes after and that question of worthiness
Mm-hmm.
or feeling purposeless and like I yeah, just like why am I here? What am I like why do I deserve to be here and having to contend with that as honestly being another kind of, on the line of death. Oh, it's so intense. And also, there's just something in me that can't help for myself to be so grateful for that because of who you are now. And just even, I mean, this could sound selfish, but just of like the role that you've played in my life, you've played I'm just one person and you have touched my life in such a big way. And you continue to. And I know you've done that for so many other people, and now you are a mother. And yeah, I love it's so beautiful to me that the way that you chose to turn your life into something different, you know?
Yeah, I had never, because I'm a very spiritual person, but I could say that my family is very religious, but I'm more spiritual. Um, but I had never in my life like contemplated suicide, and I did after. Again, this is all after everything, like, the surgery, and they say all margins clear, you're good. You should be happy. That's what I thought. But it was the complete opposite. The worthiness, the lack of purpose, the fact that I hated I hated my life. It just felt like, well then, like, why did I just don't deserve to be alive. And like what that did to my mindset, like thinking like that, it was horrible. And so, yes, when I teach, there are no empty words. There I mean what I say. I'm speaking from spiritual experiences. I'm speaking from, mental breakthroughs. I'm speaking through resilience. And that's what I try and pour into every single one of my classes, even kids, because I teach kids as well. I am just trying to plant the seeds from that time period of my life where yoga saved me, because it did.
Do you remember, like, is there a memorable moment when, like, yoga saved you? Was there a memorable moment? Because just from speaking of my own experiences of being in the deep depression and the darkness, and like when those thoughts really start to creep up on you and try to convince you that like you have no purpose, what do you don't, I don't deserve to be here. That's so intense to where it's like it's hard to get out of bed. So it's when you're in that place, it's hard to make a healthy choice. So I'm just trying to, yeah, understand if there's a way that you could kind of paint the picture of was there a memorable choice point of I'm gonna get out of bed, I'm gonna go to yoga.
I can remember it very vividly.
Mm.
I was like in a chair or something on the edge of my bed, and I was just like crying. I don't know what day it was, but I was like thinking about the fact that I had to go back to work and how much I hated it. And I had like my Bible right there, and I grabbed my Bible, and I just remember like opening it up and just like reading this random scripture, and that did nothing for me. And then I just started flipping and flipping and flipping, and then I just like landed on this random page, and I read a scripture, and like I could feel like my spirit feel better. And I was like, oh wow, that's pretty powerful. And so I like literally like went from slouching to like sitting up. And I was like, okay, well, I'm feeling this inside of me. What can I do with it? And so I just literally in that moment got up. I think I already had my yoga mat rolled out, because like this is a trick that I do with myself when I know I'm like really depressed, or if I know like I really, really, really need yoga, I'll like lay yoga mats out around the house so that when I walk past it, I see it. And so I don't know if it was like sitting out or rolling out, but I got on the yoga mat and I just pulled up. There's this YouTube channel called Boho Beautiful. This girl, her name is like Juliana or something, and I love her yoga. I've always loved it. And I just like clicked on the first video, and I remember doing it, and it was probably like a 10 to 15-minute video. And I remember doing it and finally feeling hope inside my heart. Finally, like feeling good in my body. And I remember being in a child's pose. And in that moment, I just felt like healed. Like, which is crazy because like 20 minutes ago, I was in bed, like, oh, I don't deserve anything in life. Like, I'm not over exaggerating. Like, I was a mess. And I felt healed in that moment in that child's pose. It felt so good in my body. I felt like I could finally hear myself think. I felt like breathing was like doing something for me. And I remember making a decision, I'm going to practice more. And that was like the first step. And then I did. I started doing her videos more. And then I started doing it on my own more. And then I started getting back into the studio. So that's just kind of how it went.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It's so amazing how literally one moment, one choice can change your life. And also like art and the things that we create, the things that other people create, and then just like you picking up the Bible and like looking for something, like I just need something to grab onto that can give me some little drop of hope, you know? And so yeah, for me when you were telling that story, I'm like, yeah, our lives are meaningful and we do have purpose and what we create does matter, whether it's making us feel better whether it makes one other person feel a little bit better or brings a little bit of joy or gives them that little spark of life when they're so depressed. It's like, and I love the tip to just leave yoga mats rolled out around the house just so that you can just like, I feel like even the sense of, stepping on the mat and feeling that squishy mat under your foot
Mm.
is like, it kind of lures you in of like, yeah, just come lay on me. And oh, child's pose is so healing. And the
It is.
at home yoga practice, like when I first asked the question, I was like, I was trying to picture you, like going to the studio and signing up, and that feels so big to do when you're in that darkness. And then you reminded me of at home yoga practice and the yoga teachers on YouTube. And that was my journey too, of like, you don't even want to leave your house or your room. And then it's like, you don't have to. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we live in a beautiful age of technology and you can heal through your TV.
Yes.
So thank you for that. Thank you for that reminder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it is just it's so powerful. I think a lot of times people can get caught up in, especially with social media and stuff, of what healing looks like or what wellness looks like, or people think it's expensive, and it's what you're one little choice away from changing your life. Every choice like is like you navigating through your life. Each choice point is going to bring you to a different spot. So when you have these little moments of like, if you're depressed right now and you just need a little drop of life, like pick up a book, pick up the Bible, turn on a YouTube channel, seek out something that someone else created to spread hope, and just like grab onto whatever you can and let that take you to your next choice. I think that is so real.
Yeah, you don't have to do it alone. Even when you're alone in your apartment or in your home, like you said, the technology is there. Like there's like yoga, meditation, breath work. It is just out there and it's at your fingertips. Literally, you just, instead of picking to choose to go to Instagram, you pick to choose to go to YouTube. Or maybe you're on YouTube and instead of picking to choose that show that's really funny, you instead choose it can just be meditation music, you know.
Yeah.
It can be whatever. And yeah, I go to YouTube all the time to get what I need, whether it's just meditation music, sound bowls. I love to hear sound bowls. Uh, the yoga practice, which my yoga practice is completely different now that I'm pregnant. But yeah, I would go on there for yoga. Um, it's right there. You just have to make the choice. But I will say a guiding theme for me is everything is connected. And I think I came up with that at some point after, coming into my yoga teacher journey and like looking back, because I love to journal, as you know, looking back at like past journals. And I would literally talk about I wanted to be a yoga teacher.
Mm.
Or I would like talk about how, man, I really don't like my job. I wish I could just like do something else. I wish I could just teach yoga all day. Ha ha. Literally. And I remember at some point, like looking back at that, I'm like, yo, everything is connected. Everything is connected. For me to write something like that, like years prior, like these are not mistakes. Everything is connected. I don't know if I didn't have the journey that I had with my breast, I don't know if I would have had the guts to quit a full-time job, making a salary with health insurance, to leave all of that and taking a huge pay cut to live my dreams. But when you're shook to the core you look at life differently. So everything is connected. That is a big theme of mine. And yes, there's so much connection in that one moment, that one choice. Me feeling that hope in my body, me feeling healed in my body, and deciding in that moment to do something with it, which then led me to get on that yoga mat in that wonderful child's pose and feel like this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be yoga. Like we both love yoga, but for anyone listening that's out there that's like yoga is not my jam, like it's not about yoga. It's just about finding what what lights you up, what sparks something inside of you, finding what you love. Like you said, going back in your journal, I definitely have had those moments. That's me with this podcast right now, is going back and reading in my journal from 5 years ago of I'm gonna start a podcast, and then like being like, what the heck? That was 5 years ago. But
Yes.
then like now, I didn't even it even reminds me of that meditation we just did of just like traveling to the past and sitting in that moment with that person and then traveling to now and then traveling to the future. And it gets me so excited for life because
Mm.
when you're in the present moment sometimes, and when especially when you're journaling, and I love that you said I want to be a yoga teacher, haha, because it's like we're journaling in our journals and we're like, well, because you can be so limitless in your journal, you know? It's not like you're talking to someone. It's like I really let myself just like be the realest of the realest of the real in my journal. But then I'm also like laughing at myself, like, LOL, haha. And then that's so epic to go back and like you're living that now. You're
Mm.
living the life of your dreams. And I think that's a huge key to gratitude, is to remember that like we're living a life that we prayed for now. When we start to be like unhappy with our lives, or we start wanting different things or more, I think, going back to traveling back to the past and remembering like all this that we have now is like something that we really desired.
100%. I mean, and I'm telling you, every time things have gotten so bad, and it's like, I just got to go and get a job. Even though I know a job won't save me, because these companies, these corporations, they will fire you and replace you. And I know this. I know this. I have always said this, even before I became a yoga teacher, that like companies don't care. Like, even when they say they care, like, they don't really care. And things would get so bad, and I would convince myself, okay, you need to go get a job. You need to go get a job. And I'd apply, and nothing would happen. And it's because I'm not supposed to be doing that. I went back in my journal prepping for this, and it's like I used to feel like it was jail to me. I would literally feel chained to a desk. I would sit there by the window watching the blue sky and watching all these cars pass by and being like, why am I stuck here? Stuck was a big word for me. Which is why
Mm.
a lot of times, if you come to my class, you'll hear me say, you're not stuck. That is why I say you're not stuck, because I felt absolutely stuck in those moments for so long, looking out the window, people timing you going to the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? Like, people sending an email, and 2 minutes after they send the email, calling your desk phone and say, did you get my email? Can I breathe? I just felt so choked. Like, and so, like, fast forward, why would I want to go back to that? Because it's hard right now? No, Regina, you got to work through how hard this is, and you have to figure it out. You have to unlock something. You have to figure it out. You have to trust the process. You don't want to go back. You dreamed for this. You prayed for this. And so I just have to remember that and remind myself that all the time.
Mm. That's gold, because it's so silly. I don't know if silly is the right word, but the world we live in and how money has just infiltrated absolutely everything. It's like, why do we always think that money, like, oh, I just need more money and then that's gonna fix it? And it's like, okay, that might fix some things, but what are you trade like if you gotta trade your soul for more money, like to me, that's not worth it.
It's not.
And yeah, I just love that encouragement. I love your encouragement, your message of if you feel stuck, like know that you're not. I think one of the last yoga classes I went to with you, and I think I was feeling stuck in that time in my life. Your classes always just really hit. And you said something so simple. You said, and you were using it in the phrase because it's again, and we hold the poses for a long time. And you said, if you feel stuck, know that you can always move. And it's just like even in a yoga class to get that permission from the teacher of like this is your body. You like just because I say to do this pose doesn't mean you have to do it this way or if it doesn't feel good. Like that's such gold. And then if you take that into a broader metaphor for life, like that is so true. And that's what another one of my teachers, one of my recent teachers, Yolanda, teaches is yeah, when you feel stuck, when you feel like you have no choices, that's actually the exact proof that there's like infinite possibilities that you're not considering.
Infinite. And it
Yeah.
never feels like it. It never feels like it. But there are like so many possibilities out there.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it's so hard to see outside of this one thing that's right in front of you. It just seems like there's no other way, there's no other answer. And so that's why I love to give permission in my classes. That's why before I even took my first trauma informed training, somebody was like, "You teach from a trauma informed lens." And I was like, "But I've never had a training." And I took a training and it was like, "Oh, yeah, I already do all this." Right? We all have our own issues and trauma in our lives. And whether you're on a yoga mat or walking around or doing whatever, it's like you have to like give yourself permission to let go, to know that you can move, to know that it doesn't always have to be A or B. You can do what feels good for you. But it's hard to give that permission to yourself. That's a practice right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that helps me with that feeling of stuckness or feeling like there's no other options is talking with a friend. And that's why I love talking with you, talking with, a friend someone like you who likes talking deep and who gets it and is like willing to sit with me in it and not necessarily just go on and give advice, but more so it almost feels like poetry and it feels like and I want to say this here on this podcast because this is what I've been noticing in doing these interviews like these feel like I'm in conversation with God. And just by talking to you, like talking to the beautiful conscious creators that are like living their life in alignment and
Mm,
with this sense of expanded consciousness, there's so much God moving through you and the others that I've talked to is that it's just like, yeah, it's like being in conversation with God. And I cherish that. I'm so, so grateful for that. And just simply for myself because it's crazy the things that you don't even bring up and then something comes through. And
oh,
so, yeah, thank you for being you and thank you for choosing to live your life consciously and connected. I I'm truly so grateful to be in relationship with people who make that choice.
thank you. Because here's the thing, right? You talked about wanting to do a podcast in your journal 5 years ago. You started following that dream, that passion you had, and look what happened. You're connecting, you feel aligned. You're connecting with spirit, source, divine, God, universe, whatever people want to call it, right? That's what happens when we do the things deep inside of our hearts. And it doesn't have to be a podcast, it doesn't have to be teaching yoga classes. It looks different for everyone. But the world that we live in today is like, it's not about, I don't know what the hell they created, but the world we live in today, it kind of pulls you away from self. All the
Yeah.
distractions, the way society is, culture, like they really want you focused on the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef. Why are you not trying to figure out what beef you have with yourself? Somebody please tell me that. Literally, there's so much in your face, and it's like pulling you away from yourself. But if more people just come back to like thinking about these things, having authentic moments with themselves, listening to their own minds and figuring it out and going from there, then people would start to do things that they really want to do. And it's like, we'd all feel more connected. But girl, who am I? I'm just a damn yoga teacher. So let me shut up. But that's what happens, right? You do what you want to do and you feel aligned and you feel this joy, this happiness, this sense of purpose that you never felt before.
Yeah. Please don't shut up. All
I
right,
love this.
so let me ask you the big question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I feel like it gets, little seeds get planted throughout. I feel like you've already said so much, but I'll ask it anyway. What are you reclaiming in this lifetime? What is your main message you're sharing right now? What song are you singing? What dance are you dancing? What yoga pose are you posing?
Um, I would definitely say my main message, and I dropped that seed, is everything is connected. I don't think we listen to things, whether it be a podcast or YouTube, something on YouTube or something on the radio. I don't think any of it is by chance. I think that everything is connected. And the more aligned you are with yourself, the more you start to connect the dots. The more time you spend with yourself, the more you start to connect the dots. So that's my main message. What am I reclaiming? I was pondering that. And again, I felt like I couldn't have an answer. But then I realized when I started really thinking about why I started doing what I do and why I love doing what I do. And when I think about my journey from my first yoga class up until, now as a teacher, I was like, I'm trying to reclaim time. That's
Mm.
what it is for me, right? I hated my job, which was 40 hours a week. I hated doing something where I felt like I wasn't helping anybody. I was helping the company make money, but I felt like I wasn't really helping anybody out. I wasn't helping the world. And I felt like I spent so much of my life in the office. By the time the weekend came, I was exhausted. And so the deeper part of that is I watched my mom work any possible shift so that she could take us or pick us up from school. My mom would literally change her work schedule as we went to like different schools so that she could, either take my brother to the bus stop or take me to school or pick me up from school. She would go to work. She would work overnight. I remember her having to be to work at 4 a.m. I remember her having to be to work at like 8 a.m., like all these different shifts. I remember my dad having to work two jobs. I remember, I just remember seeing them work so hard. And when I say reclaiming time, not only did following my dreams fulfill something deep within me, but it also gives me more time to slow down. And I honor and appreciate that so much more because my parents never got a chance to do that. My grandmother never got a chance to do that until she was retired, right? Even then, she's watching grandkids. I remember my grandmother, she passed last January, so January 2024. And the last couple conversations I had with her, she was like on the edge, right? So she was talking a lot about her father and like growing up, which I had never really heard. And I remember her talking about like how her daddy used to have to walk however many miles to go to work with no shoes. He had no shoes, not enough money for shoes, not enough money for socks. And like me realizing like the connection with all of that, like me as an African American woman who followed her dreams, who's trusting that the source will provide for her day after day, I am reclaiming my time for my mother, for my grandmother, for my great grandmother who had to work doing things that they didn't want to do, but to provide for their families. And they did all of that to put me in position here. And so I'm going to just like keep showing out. Like I have to. I just have to. That is what I'm reclaiming. That is why it means so much to me. Of course, right? You heard like my story of my why, but this goes deeper than that. When I really think about what I'm reclaiming, I'm showing my family that there's a completely different way to live, which they never thought possible. And my own mother started doing yoga. My own mother has started being active every single day of her life. Like, and we talked about this, Sid. We talked about this one time on our Monday night couch session. We talked about how like when you heal yourself, generational healing is not, it doesn't go just one way. I'm not just healing like my son because I'm able to like take my kid to school and pick my kid up from school and cook him dinner and go teach a class, like because I'm able to balance it all. I'm also healing up. My own mother has started to do her own mindful practices. I'm reclaiming time. And that is huge for me.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I don't know what I was expecting you to say, but I was not expecting that. And then how you really wove that all together of all the generations going back to what that would have been your great grandfather who had to walk to work with no shoes and no socks. And so for you to name these people who have been passed for a very long time and just like working up the line, and then for you to name your mother who's living and still with us and this has changed for her, and then for yourself, and then of course you have your son and you're pregnant now with another little one in the womb, like whoa,
I'm
the
reclaiming time.
ripple. Yeah.
And I started this journey, like, so 2021, like, COVID was still, like, kind of the thing, right? So, like, I was still home with my son. I had never imagined, like, working from home with my son before COVID. And to have that experience and to, after doing that for over a year and seeing what a beautiful soul I nurtured. This child is aware. This child knows when he's upset. I started seeing this when he was like around 2 years old. To see your child be able to calm themselves down, it's like I'm reclaiming time, honey. So many Black women have to work so hard. And I was able to be home even before I was a yoga teacher. But because of the practice, to be able to show my son, do these things with my son, around my son, I have I have seen what it can do to a little person. And the time the time that I have with him, the ability to make my own schedule, which is a blessing, is so that I can be around my son and so that I can be with my family and so that I can do what I love and still take care of the other roles, being a wife, being a mother. I'm reclaiming time, honey. I can't say it enough. When I was really sitting here thinking about it, I had no answer, Sydney. And I really started putting the pieces together because everything is connected. It's like that's what I'm reclaiming. It's a different way, but it all started with me following my heart.
Mm. Yeah, I think it is so important for us to be connected to our why and I guess our what as well. Because of course we can be these conscious, aware, loving, open-hearted, purposeful people without really being too deeply connected to our why, but like something about taking the time to really think and then yeah, for you to connect that back so many generations backwards and forwards. I don't know how that feels for you, but to me, it feels so much more meaningful. And I think that that is future medicine for when we hit those low points in life and that stupid, sneaky voice. Love you. Sorry for calling you stupid. That sneaky voice inside of us, starts to creep in and be like, what are you doing with your life? Because what I was thinking of when you were talking of there's this conversation in the wellness world, and again, I do think social media really distorts a lot of things
Hmm.
and dilutes the conversation. I think that's why it's so important to have actual conversations, long form conversations with people. But there's this and it is a real conversation of, as Americans, our hyper individualism. And so, sometimes people want to challenge that self-care isn't important because, or there's this narrative around like self-care or self-work being selfish and that we can, and maybe this is true for some people. It doesn't feel true for me and what I'm doing. You know, I'm so grateful and blessed to have this time to be able to, explore my internal realms and get really deep with what I am and who I am and what I have to offer the world and what I am healing in my life. And that's for a bigger reason, For me, I think self-care is community care because there's been this long narrative of specifically women of color, over giving until the point of burnout. And it's just like, I got to make sure everyone else is good. I don't even have time to think about myself. And that's like, a lot of beauty can come out of that and a lot of healing can come out of that, but at what cost? It's burning out. That is not really rippling backwards and forwards in the generation of this healthy way of doing things. Like, can't we make a beautiful impact in the world and still, be intact at the end of the day and still be rooted and rested? Do we have to work ourselves to the bone in order to make an impact in the world? And like we don't. Like you said, you are teaching your family that there's a different way of doing things. Because the question kind of popped up in my head of is there people in your family who don't understand what you're doing and think you just have this like cushy lifestyle and you don't have to go to the 9 to 5 and you have time to, I wonder if that's a narrative.
I I don't think that I don't think that they think that. I think that I've wondered if I've had certain friends who thought that. Um, you know what? Let me take that back. I will say I have wondered if a couple of family members have thought that. Um, and that's just natural, right? Because people don't understand and they think that it is this, oh, well, she don't have this 9 to 5, so she's living the good life. I'm living the good life for different reasons than what they're thinking. Because being an entrepreneur, being your own boss, an independent contractor, you are hustling, trying to get another class, trying to get a new location, trying to keep the classes you have, trying to grow your classes, trying to do more because there's so much out there. But at the same time, because of what I do and I'm a tapped in person, I know that like, okay, I have to hustle, but I'm not going to like pull from my soul. So I have to like regulate myself so that I do have the energy to teach all these classes. And so people think that, I do wonder if people think that it's really easy, but I kind of let go of that at some point within the past year, that I don't care anymore what other people think, who are close to me, what the lifestyle is like, because they don't know the struggle, they don't know the sacrifice, and why should they? They're not living the life. They don't, they're working for somebody else and they're doing work that they probably don't even care about. But when your family is on the line, you put your heart and soul into everything. And that takes a lot. You do it all. You're the social media, you're the accountant, you're the person teaching the class, you're the person getting yourself to class, you're the person buying all of the things that it takes to be a yoga teacher in today's day and age. There's a lot that goes into it, and there is no cutoff. There is no clock in or clock out. I've just learned to balance my energy, and I've learned to balance my schedule and realize that I can only do what I can do. But yeah, I did used to wonder if people used to think that it was like this cushy lifestyle, but it is 100% not easy. And you also don't see me out here buying. We are a one car household. You know, you don't see me out here buying new clothes and new things like that. I don't get my nails done. You know, all these things. You just, what's more important? And I've just learned to focus on what's important and nurture those things and worry less about what other people say, and just know that me and my family have made the right decisions because God told us to do these things, and we're going to keep doing them. And we just have to trust that He'll continue to provide for us because that's what He's been doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on, the conversation around hyper individualism in our culture, society, and how that pertains to like the wellness, health and wellness world?
I think I know what you're talking about. I have seen conversations out there on social media talking about how like Western culture and like community and like self care and like how we focus too much on self care, and whereas like community is like where other cultures thrive and things like that. Um, I think they're all important. I don't I think that depending on where somebody is in life, self-care may be more important than community care. And then maybe you get to a different season of life and community care is a little bit higher than self-care. I don't think there's like this hierarchy.
Mm.
And I believe that wellness in general, like the industry, I mean, it's an industry. And so whoever's at the top, whoever that is, they're doing what industries do. They are making things, they're determining narratives. They have the ability to make things accessible or not accessible. They have the ability to control what the masses are seeing, the images that they put out, the marketing. But that's any industry. But what I do know is that there are so many people out there who are doing things that they're passionate about. And I know that there's lots of options out there for people to find self care and community care. And people just have to decide what's right for them. I don't think there's a right or a wrong, because I believe they're both very necessary and that they can help a person out. It's just like sometimes you need one more than the other. Like at the beginning of my journey, I needed more self care. And now I'm getting into more community work. So I have to pour more into my community bucket. But because I have such that strong foundation in my self care, it's like kind of a part of my routines. So it's like I'm always coming back to it.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like people really have to choose. The industry may make you feel like you have to choose. What you see may make you feel like, because that's what social media is. It's like it can be very like polarizing. It can be very it's just people trying to create content. And so it kind of makes you feel sometimes like you have to choose, or what this post says, oh yeah, this is it. This is the right way. But there's no right way. There's no wrong way. It's your
Yeah.
way.
That's such a good point of like we don't have to it's not it doesn't have to be one or the other, or there doesn't have to be some hierarchy of community care is better and then like no, self-care is better. Yeah, I like that you pointed that out, that it is just kind of a made up conversation to make people feel bad or give people something to argue about. And I definitely agree with you. Mine has been similar, of a journey of it started with self-care and is now blossoming out into more community care. And because I have that foundation of self-care, I can, I can tell when I'm, teetering over into like too much, I'm pouring too much out and I'm not getting enough in. And then it's like, okay, now I can come back and weave in a little bit more self-care. And then it's just like the dance of a lifetime of giving and receiving. Yeah. Do you want to talk about Brown Care Collective at all?
Ooh, yes, girl. Ooh, I love that. Nice segue. Yes, I love to talk about Brown Care Collective. So, Brown Care Collective is a business that I run along with Cameron Burris and Monica DeChain. We're all yoga teachers. Cameron is also a clinical therapist. Like she has her own virtual practice, and Monica is a licensed massage therapist. And then they both actually also do like herbalism. So we're like rooted in wellness, right? And we created Brown Care Collective because we initially met through an organization that I currently still work for, the one I teach kids through, Mindful Movement Florida. So we all have worked with for Mindful Movement. And we just realized after a couple of years, we were like saying the same thing about wellness spaces. Like as a person of color, sometimes you like feel like you walk in the room and all the heads turn and look your way. Sometimes it's like, you want to hear different types of music. Sometimes it's like you feel like the teacher can be authoritative, like kind of almost like you said, like what a gift for a yoga teacher to give you permission.
Hmm.
And so we used to have these conversations over and over again, and about how, yoga doesn't have to be like this one thing. And so we just decided, you know what? Let's do our own thing. So we created Brown Care Collective. And what started out was initially, it was Monica's dream to do a conference because she knows so many different people in wellness. She was like, I would love to bring all these people together and do this big conference. And we were like, well, why can't you do it? And she was like, because it's just too much. We were like, well, we could do it. we could help you. We could do it. And that was like the thing that brought us together. And we did this wellness conference, and it was called Shifting the Culture, Activating Audacity. We had no idea how to plan a conference. We put it together, but the intention was there. We had no idea how to run a conference, but the intention was there. The alignment was there. And so the conference was this huge success. And after the conference, we were like, okay, well, we got to do more. Like people want more. So then we started doing this monthly R&B yoga class where it is a yoga class and we play R&B music or we play hip hop music. Now we do like themes. We have a vendor market. That way people can come to the class and they can support local entrepreneurs, small businesses, so that they can get stuff from these people instead of like going to Target or like ordering, a soap off of Amazon. Like support your local person who probably lives 10 minutes away from you. And now we're like focused on not only sustaining R&B, but also doing more collaborations. Like we're always trying to uplift other people, like always trying to like repost what other wellness people are doing in the area, constantly sharing that. And so we're starting to work with more people as well as like a collaboration. And it's BIPOC centered, but we really want allies to feel welcome. Like if you support the mission, if you know why BIPOC people create these spaces, then you're probably welcome to come, right? So, yeah, we're growing, we're expanding, but it's hard because it's community work. We try and keep the classes accessible. We have a sliding scale. So, right now, the price is like you can do a $15 ticket, a $20 ticket, or a $25 ticket. Um, so people get to kind of choose what they pay. You still get the same class no matter which option you pay for. And yeah, there's a lot that we're planning. There's a lot that goes into running events, even if it's only once a month. I don't think people know how hard it is to do events. Um, but we love it and it's community work and it's a wonderful thing and we pour our heart and soul into it.
I love that. I hope to come to an event one day. So
Oh, I know. I think you left around like the same time we were like doing all of this.
yeah, yeah. I remember seeing it on Instagram and just being like, oh, dang. And I don't know, I don't really know Cameron as well. I think I've maybe been in a space with her a few times, but you and Monica, love you both. Monica and her, I got a massage from Monica a few years ago for
Mm,
my birthday, and that was just like, and it was also like a therapy session.
you
Like,
got the hands, honey.
yeah. Yeah, so that's
And you,
beautiful. I look forward to coming to an event one day.
me too. And you can find us on Instagram at the Brown Care Collective. At the Brown Care Collective.
Okay, I'll put that down in the show notes, like with all your other information too. I'll make sure that's in
Ooh.
there. So cool. All right, so we're heading towards wrapping up, but is there anything else before we start wrapping up that's just like on your mind that you really want to say?
I think I said a lot. I do want to just say like, you know, everything that I speak of is from my own experience. It's like I said, my intention at the beginning was to be authentic, and I'm just sharing my authentic thoughts and my authentic story. And people may understand it, people may not understand it, but that's what happens like through life. Like you're constantly learning and unlearning, you're evolving, and it's just like everything that's kind of led up to this, these are the things that are coming up. So I'm really proud and thankful of the conversation we had today. And I'm really thankful that you even invited me on. I never would have like asked to be on here whatsoever, just because like that's just not me. And but I appreciate you thinking of me and wanting to talk to me on your beautiful podcast. And yeah, just if there's one thing that I hope people take away outside of like everything is connected, it'd be just like really start to begin to seek out what's your purpose. Like, I think that's kind of like been a theme. Like, you're doing something that you've wanted to do. I'm doing something that I dreamed about doing. Like, there's so much power in really following your purpose and using the gifts that God, or again, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, has given you. And I think that I was telling my private client the other day, I was like, if more people just did yoga, or just if more people spent time to come back to self, I really believe that could change the world. I really do. I guess I'm that naive, but like, I really believe if everyone spent time every day to like go within, that the world would be a different place. And so, yes, that's like, I guess the biggest takeaway is just like take time to like find your purpose, figure out what you want, have some self reflection, take a moment to self, and just because there's so much power in that.
Yeah. I believe that would change the world too. There's no way it wouldn't. And
It
that's why there's so much distraction in the world is like because if everyone was so in their power and living intuitive lives and just like, the bigger powers of control would not not be intact.
100%. And I think that was kind of like a conversation, like intuitive living is how we ended up doing the vendor market for Brown Care Collective. It was like, yo, imagine we were talking about money. Like money, like people, like money was created. That's what and it runs the world. But it was something that was created. Like people used to barter and
Hmm.
exchange. That is like how people would live. Like, okay, well, I need your cow. I can give you 1,000 bananas. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a bartering system. And we were like, you know, money has run the world. And now we have like corporations and things that are like the top 1% who are running things. It's like, well, what can we do to support small? What can we do to like support local people who are working hard? And so that's how we came up with like a sliding scale. And that's how we thought about the vendor market, like really supporting local business owners. Because like the more intentional you are with your daily choices, buying a soap from this person as compared to buying a soap from Target, like all of that stuff starts to add up. And so like intuitive living, intentional living, it can have such a big impact. It's just people have to like take the time to come back and to let go of all the other stuff. Which is so hard to do in today's world. It's really hard to unplug, but
Yeah.
there's
Yeah, that
power.
does. It takes a certain kind of slowness and you have to give up convenience. It's instead of going on your phone and clicking a few buttons and getting it delivered from Amazon, it's like, but then again, it's like you could just go on your phone and probably click a few buttons on a small business website and have it at your house at the same amount of time. It's just a different website in the world we live in. Um, oh, I had a thought, but it might have left me. Yeah, she's gone.
Please go. Oh, I take
That's
the
okay.
devil to replace her.
But okay, here it is. She's back. It was the thought I had while you were talking about intentional living and encouraging not only, so you're on one hand, you're encouraging people to follow their passion, and that might lead to entrepreneurship and doing a passion-led business. And then you're also encouraging people to support those so that these businesses can thrive and so that we can all like continue following our passions and living these lives. And I think back in the day when we used to barter and trade, we get kind of confused about what our worth is in the world now, modern day, because like money is like just the top number one priority for people. I mean, for good reason, because we need money to eat and live and take care of our families and whatever. But back in the day, it was like whatever you were passionate about or whatever your gift was, like that was your worth, and you were able to trade that for the things that you needed. And so everyone was really like living in their inherent worth.
Mm, mm,
And
mm.
so that like it wasn't money. It wasn't how much money you have. Like, oh, if I have once I get this much money, I'll finally be worthy or it's and I'm sure there was people that's an overgeneralization as I tend to do, but I'm sure there was people who weren't happy, but it was still like that's what your value was just like you gave your value and you gave your worth and you traded it for someone else's and it just feels like a a wholer way to live. That's not a word, but living
Holistic.
in yeah. Yeah.
It's like, even to circle back to what you just said. Um, oh, dang, I lost it. Just like you. No, you made a really good point just now. Um, but essentially, I think I was on the tracks of, you know, money is important in today's world, but it is not like the most important thing. And we can get caught up in living for other people, right? Because mommy and daddy say, you need to do this. Well, I'm going to do this. Or mommy and daddy have done this business, or I'm going to do this. Or it can even be the complete opposite. Mommy and daddy weren't mommy and daddy for me. So I have to be everything for myself. And I'm going to work my fingers down to the bone. But at the end of the day, like, money can't make you happy. Money can't, it doesn't solve problems. Like, my little one the other night was like, I'm gonna go to Pennsylvania and I won't have any more problems. And I was like, babe, I was like, I'm sorry to tell you, but your problems follow you no matter where you go. Like, you can pick up and you can move and you can go somewhere else, and the problems, your internal problems, are still going to be there. I was like, you can't run away from certain things, even if you change the scenery. All that to say that, money doesn't make us happy. We're the ones that have to live in our bodies 24/7. You have to like really think about that. There's power in that. You're living in your body 24/7. Your soul, your body, your spirit. If you don't take time to take care of that body, what happens? The body starts to, well, the body naturally decomposes, right? But someone who never, ever, ever moves their bodies look different at maybe 50, 60, 70, 80, as compared to someone else who maybe did do some type of movement or exercise. It's the same thing. If you don't nurture your soul, you don't nurture your spirit, you're living in this thing 24 hours a day. It don't cut off. What do you think happens? You have to process. You have to process the stuff, the visual stimuli that you've seen. You have to process the emotions that are traveling through your bodies, these electromagnetic pulses. You have to face the reality. You have to figure out what it is you want, because you're living this 24/7. And at the end of the day, when the clock runs out, are you going to be happy if you just lived for money? I don't know.
Yeah. It seems like redefining wealth and money can be a part of that, of course, and also it's not the whole picture.
It's not the whole picture, right? Because I would love to just get some money dropped on my lap right now. That would solve some problems,
Yeah,
right? But
I
it would
love
not
money.
solve all of my problems.
Yeah.
It just can't. It just won't. And so we have to like go deeper, have those meaningful conversations. Um, there's so much power in it if we could just take the time. And I like to say we, right? If we could just take the time to sit with ourselves.
Yeah. Okay, so I know you just threw out a couple there, but what is one specific practice or ritual that you have that reminds you that life is sacred?
Hmm. That life is sacred.
Hmm.
I don't know if that like. for me, I just know it. I think that whole breast cancer situation really kind of shook me to my core. And I realized in that moment life was sacred. And I mean, you hear stories all the time. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was driving to a class, I was rushing, and I was stuck at a light, and I kept hearing these ambulances, and I was like, oh, what is happening? I'm going to be late, right? This was my thought. And then finally, like, the light changed, I was able to go, and I look and I could see that the street was completely blocked off. And I was like, oh shit, that's not good. And I remember texting my mom when I got to the next light, and I was like, yo, something happened on US 19. And so I went to class, right? I come out of class, I get in my car, and I look at my phone, and my mom said that a mother like got killed driving. Somebody was speeding on this regular road. Somebody was going like 80 miles per hour, and he hit this mother, and she had kids, and she died. And that was like, I cried. I literally sat there and cried. I cried because I was sitting there getting mad as ambulances were going by because I was going to be late. I felt so much shame and guilt in that moment. And then I cried for the mother. I cried for these children whose lives whose lives were affected in just that one moment. So for me, I think there are always these little moments where I realize life is sacred, because there are people, the world we live in now, we're moving so fast, and there's people getting sick, there's people dying. And just every time I hear stories like that, it's just to me a reminder that life is sacred. So I don't think I really have any rituals. I think I'm just like reminded by life that none of us know when the end is coming, and that every moment is precious. You just never know when it's someone's last moment.
Yeah. I love the practice of I just know it. It's like just know it. And if you are having a hard time, look around you and see it. Because I have this little this painting that one of my friends sent me, and it says, "There is no shortage of grief.
Hmm.
Break down and rebuild anew," is what it says. And it's true. There is no shortage of grief. There's no shortage of death. There is no shortage of sickness. So if you're having trouble knowing that life is sacred, just look around you. And you can see it in the joy too, and the beauty, and the birds flying out in the sky, the turkey vultures that are eating something that's dead and decaying. So that's just life, you know? There's constant reminders all around us. So,
I know I tell Monica, my Brown Care co-founder, I'm always talking to her, like, one thing that me and my family, because like my husband is like a guy's guy, honey. Like he just wants to watch sports all the time. And I'm completely the opposite. And my son wants to watch kitty stuff. But the one thing we can kind of like agree on is like nature and like animal shows, because they're so raw. They are just so captivating. And I think like, even though they're narrating whatever footage that they have, it's just like it's so poignant. Like it's so like spot on. It's just a reminder that all these animals are just like living their life, and like any moment can be their last. It just, not only that, like the circle of life, how yes, this zebra, unfortunately we watched it, get tackled and killed, but look at this whole pride of lions that's able to eat this zebra. It's just like nature is like so real and so raw and so unhinged. And that's like one thing that we can actually watch together as a family, and like each of us in our own way, right? From a athlete man to a yoga teacher to a 5-year old, all of us can like see the rawness and the beauty in what's happening on this earth through animals.
Love that. All right, my love, can you share with us where people can connect with you? I know people are going to want to reach out and follow you, see what you're up to.
Yes. So again, my name is Regina Fields. My Instagram handle is at Brave Baby Bird. And if you've listened to this podcast, you can probably see why I have each one of those. Brave Baby Bird. Love animals, specifically birds. I think they're beautiful. Brave because of the cancer story. And people just start calling you brave for no reason. And then I learned to embrace it. And baby because I always was like told growing up that I was sensitive. And now I'm just like owning it. So you can find me at Brave Baby Bird. Um, let's see. I teach local to St. Pete, but as you know, I'm pregnant, so I'm slowing down right now, but I do virtual things like I do a virtual journal club. I just ended a journal club. And so if you follow me, you can stay updated. I do virtual events. So no matter where you are, you can tap in.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's been listening. I'm so glad that you got to hear a little bit of Regina's story medicine. Thank you, Regina, for being so generous with your stories and your wisdom and your time. As we know, it's very important to you.
Yes.
And for anyone listening or watching, if you could do us a favor and give us a follow or like or subscribe wherever you are, that really helps support the podcast. And I'll have all of my information and Regina's information down in the show notes if you want to connect. So thank you so much. Endless gratitude and blessings to you all, and I'll see you in the next one.